How's everyone doing this evening? This is Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. And before we get deeper into the forest, I'd like to ask you folks, when you see us on YouTube, if you could give us a check mark, number one, and number two, any comments that you have, either positive or negative, put them down there because I want to get everyone's opinion. Okay, so where are we and why are we here? Okay, right now, over 40, was it over? I think it's like over 42 million Americans are going hungry. Okay, now, I can't believe sometimes that my country, the country where I'm from, because I'm living in Uganda, been over here for the last several months, and I can't believe that this is the United States that I was born in, grew up in, served in the military, active and reserve for like 26 years. I can't believe what I see happening. And I hope that people are finally starting to get enraged. Now, let me put it to you like this. 42 million Americans, and that means not to try and make this a civil rights issue, but let's talk, let's speak on it for what it is. It's a hunger issue. And we're talking about over 42 million Americans. We're talking about black people, white people, Latino people, Asian people, indigenous people. The sad thing, the extra sad thing, 'cause, I mean, it's sad anyway, but just think about it. A large portion of these people that need those SNAP assistant benefits to get food are American military veterans, and many of whom are disabled, either mentally or physically, from the service that they did for their country. Now, put that on one side of the ledger. The other side, Friday, Friday night in Washington, D.C., at the White House, right? Uh, Trump and his minions decided to throw a costume ball. The theory, or excuse me, what do you call it? The symbol of the ball was 1920s, The Great Gatsby. So I want you to picture this. This guy, supposedly our president, unfortunately, he is our president. He takes off jetting around the world to make non-existent deals for for the country. I I would be surprised if the private deals that were made were basically to the benefit of him and his family. But be that as it may, this guy comes back to DC and throws a lavish gala in the very same house, the White House, where he has taken bulldozers and knocked down walls and floors and the whole thing. And then he says to the American people, "Oh well, don't worry about it, because I know I said it was going to be 200 million. In actuality, it's like 300 or 350 million, and it's not coming out of the taxpayers' dime." And I'm trying to understand this. Now, the White House, a symbol of our democratic republic, being torn down and replaced with some kind of lavish gala, I don't know, marble palace or what have you. And then we're told, oh, well, don't sweat it because this is coming from my rich friends and the corporations and media enterprises that I browbeat into supplying the 350 million. I don't know about you, but I see that as number one, being a total disrespect, smack across the kisser for the American public. Because guess what, folks? The White House, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, that's our house. Okay? Um, and me myself, not trying to get off on the race card, but facts is facts. As a black American, my ancestors were the ones in chains who built that house. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe John Adams and his wife Abigail had something to say about that because remember, they were the first residents in the White House. What would that be? That would be like 1797, if I'm not mistaken, because you had George was the first, then you had John Adams, then you had Jefferson. So this, the symbol, the symbol of who we are is wrapped up in this whole White House thing. And this spoiled, rich little baby is just going to take it upon himself to tear down our legacy. The same way his little flunky in the Pentagon, what's his face? Pete Hegseth, right? Former Fox commentator, now Secretary of Defense, and I keep saying Secretary of Defense. Congress wants to change it to the Secretary of War, fine. But until that time, to me, it's the Secretary of Defense. The same way this little Secretary of Defense runs around tearing down the pictures of the Tuskegee Airmen, those black airmen who, unfortunately, racist America said would never be able to fly because Negroes were not equipped to be fighter pilots. And of course, well, if you don't know the story, you should read up on it. Long story short, they performed heroic service. And the same way that they have torn down the pictures of the Buffalo Soldiers, those black army guys in the so called, what they like to call it, the Indian Wars. I call it the wars of conquest on the part of the American government. And as a black man, as a black American, I'm kind of divided because the Buffalo Soldiers performed heroic service between 1867 to about when was it officially declared over? About like 1900. I mean, they were the best in the United States Army. White officers have said that. However, by the same token, they were doing something which was disreputable, and that is helping America steal the land from the indigenous people. So I'm kind of at a cross purposes for that. I'll never stop praising the heroism of the Buffalo Soldiers. Their enemies at the time respected them. As a matter of fact, that's how they got the name Buffalo Soldiers. But by the same token, like I said, we have to realize what it was that they were doing. Okay, they were basically helping America commit genocide upon the indigenous people of this land. And that's when they talk about having two distinct thoughts in your head at the same time. But anyway, Hegseth said, well, we're going to get rid of all that. Just like Trump took Obama's picture, all the pictures of the presidents. And he decides to take Obama's picture and stuff it somewhere in the basement. And, I really, it just amazes me because to move to another part of the story, you have all of these people. Well, I voted for Trump, but I didn't vote for this. Well, goddamn, the man has a resume of being a thief, a liar, um, a brutalizer of women. Uh, what in the hell did you vote for, or what did you think you were voting for? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm so tired of hearing this bullshit about, well, Trump had more, he had better news for the economy than Biden did, or than Harris did. Well, I want to hear the morons out there that believe that Harris would not be doing a better job than Trump. Okay. I mean, I'm on YouTube now. Come on, man. Send me your opinions. But don't just curse me out. Tell me why. See, we're trying to trying to get something going here. It's called critical thinking in the United States. Um, just like sometimes you read something or you hear people say things, and it's like, damn, where have these people been for the last 10,000 years? Civilization has, moved on, has evolved. And see, there's a reason for that. Now, this is my pet theory. I believe that the 1960s, just like the time, especially at the end of World War II, the 60s brought about a period where people were actually thinking. And you have to remember, people were actually educated. They understood the threat of Soviet communism, the space race, all that good stuff. Healthcare. We were fighting diseases and things of that nature. And I will tell you that the college students, generally speaking, that came out in the 60s, right? I don't think America has ever had such a brilliant group of college students and just working people in general. And I think because of that, certain powers that be made a commitment that we're going to have to dumb down the American population. See, that's why you have some of that. What's the name of that clown? Uh, Goebbels, well, one of them right wing white nationalist groups. The guy with the Latino last name, Fariga, or whatever the hell his name is. Maybe because I'm getting older, people I find disgusting sometimes. It's hard for me to call their names up. I realize that's a fault on my part. Forgive me. But you know what I'm talking about. The guy that had dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and I believe had been to the White House. Um, him with that black clown, what's his name? Um, Not Jay-Z. The other one. I probably think of it later. Anyway, that's why it seems that there has been an outbreak of right wing, nationalist, Christian, xenophobic bullshit, of which Charlie Kirk, the late, unlamented Charlie Kirk, was a prime example. See, because they've been working double time, especially with the start of the Reagan administration, to essentially keep people ignorant. See, that's why. What do you hear out of right wingers now? Oh, well, it's the universities, it's the colleges, and we got to get those books out of the libraries. Well, that's the Nazi playbook, right? You attack knowledge. I would not be surprised, especially in the South and the rural areas where you have people trying to instigate book burnings, right? And like somebody said once, you start off burning books, and the next thing you know, you're burning people. And I think that the Hitler's Third Reich is a prime example of that. But I think that one of the sad things is that people, and I'm talking about a lot of, some working class, a lot of rural white voters, right? Why in the hell do you gravitate to people that don't give a damn about you? See, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, okay? I keep thinking back to the 60s when LBJ said something to the effect of, you tell a poor, downtrodden, white working class dude that he's better than a black PhD, and you can get anything you want from that white working class dude. See, and that's shameful. That is shameful. That our humanity can be lowered to such a point that we will support ignorance as long as it's white. And I think that's a large part of the problem that happened with this whole Trump thing. Because my knowledge growing up, being born in this country, raised in this country, experienced in this country, I don't think that no woman or no person of color would have been able to get away with the criminality that Donald Trump has been getting away with. And I tell you, quite frankly, I don't think, yeah, Trump is there running around like an idiot, but I think it's bigger than Trump. I think that, again, this is my personal opinion. I believe that you have maybe certain countries, uh, corporations that essentially they like seeing the hell that Americans are going through, okay? Because it pads their bottom line, frankly. If America ever gets back to sanity, I believe that what will be necessary is that we have to have hearings on who these Trump supporters were. Oh, don't get me wrong. I ain't talking about a witch hunt like Donald always talks about. No, not a witch hunt. But illegal things have been going on since this guy walked into the White House. And what America needs to do, we need to find out who are the people who are behind that. Who gave this guy the idea that, yeah, well, you can just take troops and march them into American cities to help the Constitution. Who were the ones pushing for that, right? And I believe that that will illuminate a lot of the bullshit that Americans have been going through these last, what, 8 or 9 months, quite frankly. We have a president that this guy feels that his his word is writ. His word is the law. He doesn't like a government in Venezuela. Well, no problem. Let's go down there and kill the head of government, right, and take it over. Something that you want in Nigeria. Oh, well, let's just go over there and attack Nigeria. I don't want to hear this. And please, let's not fall for this bullshit about, they're hurting Christians in Nigeria. Listen, the Trump administration is hurting Christians right here in the United States, right? So it comes to my mind, listen, if you can't take care of Christians here in the United States who are hungry and jobless, right? Then why in the hell do you think it's okay for you to travel 3,000 miles across the ocean and attack what you believe to be a anti-Christian thing over there? And let's not forget South Africa, right? the so-called genocide in South Africa, which is bullshit. I live in Uganda, up the road from South Africa. If there was a genocide going on, believe me, we would know about it. Okay? I mean, with a genocide, right? People have a tendency to try and escape the country. They have a tendency to climb fences, swim rivers, right? Have shootouts with the military. None of that is happening. Okay? None of that is happening. What it is, you do have Afrikaner farmers, some Afrikaner farmers who are quite frankly upset because of the fact that their vote counts the same as everyone else's. And I guess they have a problem with that. See, uh, everybody doesn't believe in equality. We have. I think that's something that we've got to learn. Because if you had your foot on somebody's neck for the last couple of 100 years, and then suddenly when they say, "Oh, okay, well, look, you get your foot off my neck, cool," and we're going to walk down the street as a couple of men, right? One not being superior to the other. Now, I tell you, quite frankly, most decent people will go for that. I don't want anybody bowing towards me, right? I don't want anybody kissing my feet. But by the same token, I don't go for this crap that somehow, because we're put on the equal playing field, that you feel that you are being denied your rights. No, you're not being denied your rights. Okay? You are being denied the opportunity to oppress. And that may be happening in certain areas of South Africa. There's also a problem with the government. Um, they have issues, right? Just like we have issues with our government in the United States, right? But that has got a damn thing to do with genocide. And I wish that America, the United States, would stop going to different countries and looking at the internal problems of those countries and basically trying to create, issues, right? Now, America, we cannot take care of our own. Or put it this way, the ruling class refuses to take care of the mass majority of American people. And you had government officials, some elected government officials talking about, oh, well, in so many words, they're saying, well, the hell with the people that require SNAP, or what we used to call food stamps, and what have you. They're lazy, they don't want to work, they make bad life choices. What the hell kind of nonsense is that for an American government official or for an elected American official to say about the people? In many cases, these are people in your district that voted for you. And now you're telling them that they can go pound sand because they're hungry and their children are hungry. You got active duty military people that have to go to, you know, food shelters, right? To get food. I guess they're supposed to pound sand also. See, I'm not going to sit up here and croak about, oh, where is the humanity? Nah, screw that. Because if your mind is so sick and twisted that you would even question the need for working people to have food, I think the humanitarian arguments are wasted on you. You're a monster, quite frankly. I don't care how expensive your suit is or how pretty your dress is. You are a freaking monster. But what you need to understand is that Attitudes like that are what bring about revolutions. Think I'm lying? Ask what was his name, Louis the 15th or 14th, right? The one that got his head chopped off. I think that that would be a regrettable outcome of what this lack of food thing that we're seeing here in America. But I'm trying to understand what gives you the right to insult people by saying, "Oh, well, you have to go and get food charity boxes because you're a bum, or because of the fact that you made a mistake in life, or because, pardon the French, but sometimes shit happens in life, okay? Regardless of the circumstances, those are human beings, number one. Number two, they're Americans. And unfortunately, and I don't put this on you plutocrats, I put this on the starving people themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of these starving folks voted for you and your kind, you and your Republican kind, and you have betrayed them. See, because you went through the streets of America along with your pal Bill Maher talking about, oh, well, it's the trans people. And the Democrats, they love the trans people. And they hate Christians and all this other crazy bullshit. And unfortunately, working class people, and by their very nature, um, and also because it's been set up that way since the 70s, to basically be occupied trying to survive. Okay. And they fell for the game. Just like now, every day, more and more Americans are waking up to the fact that they have been had. See? And quite frankly, I really look askance at any government that refuses to help feed its own people. See? We all were not not born and raised in Trump Tower. Okay? Uh, most of us were not born on third base. And at a time when the American economy, for some reason, it's not able to produce jobs for its people, yeah, you're going to have people that need food assistance. And they should not be ashamed of it. Look, we live in a society. We don't live by ourselves on some freaking mountain or some cave. Okay? The nature of humanity is social, right? People have a right to expect things from their government. Okay? We pay taxes, we serve in the military, we obey the laws, and so on and so forth. But now it seems like since November of 24, that we have a government that says, listen, uh, we're just going to take from you, and you're supposed to be out there, you got to look out for yourself. And that's pure bullshit. That's pure ignorance. See? And, I'm glad to see that some, not as many as I believe it should be, but even some MAGA people are starting to realize. Just like this crap with Trump, was it America first? Number one, America first has a very nasty connotation. If you know anything about history, you will know that the term America first is a very nasty, evil term because it was used by people, even some very prominent people, like Henry Ford, like Charlie Lindbergh, right? It was used to basically tell the American and European Jewish communities, listen, we don't give a damn what Hitler does to you. We don't want to be bothered. We don't care. That's basically what America First meant. And the fact that this term America First was revived um, in late 2024, that should set off a warning as to the type of people that wish to run our government. Okay? Just like this big scandal about the young Republicans. And, people like me were supposed to be, wait on, I'm a monkey? Well, I think I'm a little bit too large to be a monkey. How about gorilla? Okay. And a watermelon eater. Well, I tell you quite frankly, watermelon is extremely healthy. And to show you how sick American society can be, I have known black people that, at least publicly, will refuse to go to a restaurant and order watermelon because of the fact that, it has such a deleterious connotation about black folks, right? Well, I happen to love watermelon and fried chicken. Okay. What else should our young Republicans have to say? Oh, yeah, rape, right? That rape is a good thing. It's just good old boy fun. Right? Immigrants, well, we see how Republicans feel about immigrants, right? Beat them up, throw them in the back of the car, and put them in some kind of detention facility. And Jews. See, that's something that has really puzzled me because American Jews, for the most part, need to understand that there's this distinct difference generally between American Jews and the European settlers in the Middle East, in Israel, say. And I've tried, for the longest, I've tried to figure out these right wing folks in America, they hate Jews. Let there be no doubt in your mind, okay? They do not think too highly of Jews, American Jews, but they will gladly try to help Jews in Israel, like their prime minister, blow up brown people in Gaza, blow them to atoms. See, that's another reason why the right wing. Hopefully, I'm right. Hopefully, they will not last because there's too much inconsistencies. But that's what you have in America. You have uh, a right wing nationalist movement that hates American Jews, but they are supportive of Jews in Israel because they're killing brown people. Just that simple. All right. Now, this whole thing about America first, this is what something else I'm trying to understand. Um, the first thing they want to do is whitewash American history. Okay. Uh, well, when you do that, you denigrate American history totally. Okay. Now, I think that we've gotten to the point, and believe me, this is not trying to sell the Democratic Party as the immortal saviors, but sometimes you have two clear choices, and this choice is, the choice that we have now. You have the Democrats who are a pro-democracy party, and you have the Republicans, who what I would call a nationalist, theocratic, pro-monarchist party. Now, it would seem that the MAGA Republicans, they want Americans to starve. Now, I'm trying to figure out how was that American first. Um, they got rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay, no federal student loans. No, they're keeping that. They want anybody that wants to college, they want you to pay for it, right? No matter how much it upsets the economy. what? The Federal Aviation Administration. They don't give a damn about air traffic controllers. Um, they're destroying FEMA. They're destroying the IRS. They're working on destroying Medicare and Medicaid. They're working on destroying the National Institute of Health. You know, all them kooky scientists and whatnot that spend hours and hours every day trying to figure out a cure for childhood cancer. They want, get rid of them, right? And what is it? National Oceanic and Atmospheric. In simple terms, the people that warn you, hey, man, there's a hurricane or a tornado coming in your direction. They want to get rid of that. As a matter of fact, they did get rid of that. Remember that thing in Texas several weeks ago? Yeah, they want to destroy healthcare as we know it. They want to destroy the Department of Education. Like Americans are not dumb enough already, right? They want to destroy the National Research and Development for Cancer. I think I already tipped on that one. Ah, and they're killing farmers and the beef ranchers. Now, I want somebody to explain to me how in the hell is that America first? How can you claim to be America first when the things that Americans depend upon you want to get rid of? I just, the logic escapes me. It truly does. Oh, by the way, 1619 in Virginia, William Tucker, first black child born in America. How about that? Son, you didn't know what you started. Okay. And I find something also very strange here. The government has decided to cancel all religious support contracts for the military, for, military chapels. I find that to be so strange. That would seem to be something that what some Americans would accuse Democrats of trying to do. How does that figure? You know, I know all the time, both times, when I was a regular Army, when I was regular Navy, when I was Reserve, Army, and National Guard, I had stuff going on, and I had to, I felt the only person I could talk to was a chaplain. Didn't always agree with him or her, but it was good to have someone there to talk to that was not in your direct chain of command. Spiritual guidance, emotional help. So why would you do that? Now I'm a real great stickler for the separation of church and state. But by the same token, why would you take chaplains away from the military? Or put it this way, make their job 10 times harder. Why would you do that? And you're supposed to be these big Christian, nationalist, xenophobic guys and whatnot. Why would you take away the chaplains? That's something that I think a lot of Americans really would probably find disturbing, especially those who have friends or kinfolk in the military. You know, that's something to think about. See, it's like everything that is can help Americans, these America First people want to take it away. And now you have the situation where Trump had said, well, no, no more of these stupid wars. Okay. He wants to go to war against Colombia. He wants to go to war against Venezuela. He wants to go to war against Nigeria, 3,000 freaking miles away. And to me, that seems to be just another imperialist exercise. And I think the world is done with that. This is not the 1910. You think you're going to march into somebody else's country and tell them what to do. Now, the problem with the Christians and the other folks, Muslims, animists, what have you, that's something that that's a problem. Okay. I'm not saying that there ain't a problem in Nigeria, but I believe that that's something that the Nigerian people themselves have to solve. And I would say this to human rights people in Nigeria and human rights people out of Venezuela. Do not welcome Trump's intervention into your family problems. Don't do it. I think it would be a mistake. Okay. And the fact that Trump feels that he can do this type of thing, uh, I think that that should be a warning signal to Americans. You know, we spent what the last 20 some odd years having body bags come back from the Middle East. Now you want to see them coming back from Latin America and from Africa? I don't think so. I don't think that that'd be a very good idea. Seriously. Do you want Trump to institute or reinstitute the draft to go fight in South America or to go fight in Africa? See, these are the kind of questions that people need to ask themselves. Is it worth? Is it worth trying to kick off World War III? Let's see the. I want to see the evidence of this genocide in Nigeria. I want to see the evidence of these murdered fishermen, okay, off the Venezuelan coast, right? Because you saying that, yeah, it's a big drug spot, so we're killing everybody, and you don't produce any type of evidence. I mean, what is that? And Trump, what the hell you know about Nigeria? Because the last I heard, you said all African countries are shithole countries. Now, I came over here to start trying to do a business. I don't find Ghana to be a shithole country. And I don't think if I decide to take a trip up the road to Nigeria, I doubt I would find them to be a shithole country. But I tell you what I do know that what you have done to the United States since you have been in the White House, that to me is evidence of how you can take a great nation and turn it into a shit hole country. See? And I wish to God, I mean, I know it's starting to happen. It's like every day another American, the light bulb goes off on the top of their head and they see it. That's why, Donald, your poll numbers are so low. I'm just hoping that these light bulbs start, they start picking up the pace and start realizing, that, hey, a mistake was made last November. There are constitutional ways to rectify that mistake. And I hope that Americans really wake up and start using or forcing their elected officials to start using these constitutional means of trying to get the government back in control. I mean, trying to get the government back in the hands of the people and not one uh, psychologically damaged, hateful, weird oligarch that gets his support from various corporate bigwigs and maybe one or two countries. Okay. We know the hook that the Israeli government has in the United States and upon far too many of our elected officials. I think that 2025, 2026, this is it, okay? This is the crap game. This is the big crap game here. And Americans going to have to just realize, listen, either you want a democracy right? Where people can participate, where people can live with a decent quality of life. Or you are just going to be happy living underneath a theocratic oligarch, right? And I know some of you right wingers out there, you get all excited and aroused. Yeah, yeah, theocracy, God will rule. But see, the problem with that, as our founding fathers saw, was that you're going to go back into the same thing of medieval Europe, right? Uh, the head of the government said, I want this to be done because God told me to do it. See? And I think that we have advanced, we have evolved a little bit further up the food chain than to be satisfied with that as an answer. Now we got an election coming up tomorrow, right? Mondami versus Cuomo, and I don't mean to disrespect Curtis Sliwa, but right now these are the two biggest numbers, and I am so sad for Andrew Cuomo because I mean I've known the family, right? I'm a New Yorker. We've known the Cuomo's for like forever, right? Uh, and these were people of high character, principles, and generally they did the best they could in terms of working for the people. But I see now Governor Cuomo, he seems to be, I don't know, he seems to be hooked up with all the people that don't mean American democracy well. Okay, he was the lawyer for the guy that is committing genocide in Gaza. Uh, he gets his money from these people that supported Trump. See, and that to me that's a very bad thing. I think that's a bad thing for him personally, politically, and I think that that's a bad thing for New York in general. And I am ashamed of the Democratic elected officials, some of whom have stood up for Mondami as the guy running for mayor. Some of them have, I don't know, few of them have given what I would call a little cowardly um, approval. Like, oh well, yeah, he's all right. Blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. I think that the way that Madame is going, that is what the Democrats as a whole need to do. It's a new day, man. Number one. Number two, the one good thing about people mistakenly putting Donald Trump in the White House is that it shows us, right? Trump, this is how you call it market-based capitalism. I mean, this is it, baby. Money talks, bullshit walks. Don't matter what's going to help the mass majority of American people. It's about the money. See, it's just like with the Democrats. They finally got some backbone, and they're standing up and saying, hey, we're going to fight it down in this hill, and it's a good hill because especially if you got a family, right, or you married and you living in America, you got to have health care. If you don't have health care, you're screwed. See. Yeah, I keep hearing about, oh, well, let the Democrats come back, let them give in, and we'll come back and talk about it. Listen, man, we've been hearing this bullshit for like, what, 2015? And the fact that it seems so damn difficult for Republicans to come off with a decent health care proposal shows you that that is not where their heads are at. That's not where their heart is at. They don't give a damn if you don't have health care. Okay? They could care less. People act upon what they care about. Okay? If the Republican Party, this Republican Party, not my dad's Republican Party out of the 60s, okay? But this Republican Party, if they cared about Americans being able to have some decent health care for them and their families, they would have done something about it, right? The fact is, they haven't done a damn thing. And they try to freak out because of that Georgia Congresswoman, what is it? They call MTG, that Republican gal. Well, I don't, in the past, I've never agreed with this, what this woman had to say, but I agree with her about this. And see, I think the funny kind of way, because she comes from down there in Georgia, right? And she might be the best person to speak on this because I guess something happened to open her eyes. This is the cost of white nationalism. This is the cost of white supremacy. We can't have decent things in this country because the Republicans and their racist supporters go, well, that's just for black folks to stay home and be lazy and blah, blah, blah. And the poor working class white folks, they have been so, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they have been so conditioned to say, well, yeah, this is, we can't have decent health care in this country because the black and brown people who are lazy anyway, they'll be able to benefit off of my taxpaying dollars. See? And that's how, especially in the last 40, 45 years, that's how the Republican Party is responsible for how screwed up this country is. See? And I guess it hit Marjorie, that's her first name, right? It hit her when she saw at home, her grown kids. It's like, damn, man, how do they expect her to pay for this? And if one thing I can get across to people, this idea about, well, Americans, we stand alone and we pull ourselves up with our own boots. And well, what happens if you don't have no boots, man? Number one. Number two, this whole thing is a myth, of the rugged American standing alone. Maybe that was cool for the cowboy movies with John Wayne, right? But we don't live like that anymore. This is a passing out of industrial into high tech society. Okay. And the truth is, and I feel funny saying this sometimes because I have a lot of different groups of people I don't like. Sue me, I'm human. But see, I got enough sense to know that when it comes down to the basics of survival, we have to link arms together. Okay? There's like what, 350 million of us in this sucker? And we have to work together. Now, of course, if you're part of the super wealthy billionaire elite, you can hop in your private jet and fly to wherever the hell you want to go. But for most, oh, if somebody wants to be a wise ass to say, why are you in Uganda? Hey, I had to take the cheap flight. Okay. All right. I didn't hop in no private plane. I just had an idea to try and start a business. Big deal. Which is something Americans have been doing since the 1700s. But just to get it straight, you don't walk through life alone. Okay? The Republicans push this idea about a man, being like Abraham Lincoln, taking an axe and going out and chopping some trees and building his log cabin. Well, number one, that was bullshit, even back then. Okay. But the truth of the matter is that you can't live by yourself, right? It's just how should I describe it? life in America is a communal thing. And I know some people out there, they don't like the word, but it is. You know, you get hit by a car, what are you going to do? You're just going to you're going to lay out there by yourself and die? No, people need to help you. You know, ambulances have to come. There has to be a hospital there for you. And that's the same way it is of everything else in life in this country. And I think the worst thing that the Republican Party has done, it has essentially turned us against each other, right? Just like now, Hegseth and Trump, they're trying to turn our military, our freaking military, they're trying to turn it against the American people. I would not be surprised if you started seeing an attempt to segregate the armed forces, resegregate the armed forces. I would not be surprised. Listen to what they're saying, right? Listen to what they're saying. They're out to get trans people. They're out to remove women from critical positions, right? If you have a skin condition, which unfortunately many black people have, black and Latino, they do. They have, skin problems, right? They want you gone, which is just an excuse for white nationalizing the force. Look what they do in the ICE, hiring people with criminal records, right? Hiring people uh, who are known violent offenders, right? Hiring people who are out of shape, right? Because what Trump and Hexbeth want, they want to have their own private military, okay? So that these guys will do what they want them to do and not what the Constitution stipulates. I'm telling you, America, wake up. And this bullshit was $130 million that Trump got from some rich friend of his to help the military about the pay thing. That is a freaking atrocity. And I don't even believe that that's legal. But like so many things that the Trump administration has been doing that are illegal, people let that pass or don't raise hell about it. Listen, it's getting late. All I can say in conclusion, America, if you love your democracy, you better be ready to fight for it. Seriously. I've known some black people, right, talking about, oh, well, I don't get involved in politics. I mean, black lady was telling me that about, when was that, back in May or April? And I'm like, what planet do you live on? If there is a function, right, that controls your life, don't you think the intelligent thing to do is to be involved in that process that shapes your life, whether you like it or not? Or at the very least, don't you think that common sense dictates that you should at least be knowledgeable about the process? I mean, I don't think I can say anything more than that. And and I'm saying this to my African American brothers and sisters, yeah, get up off your ass and get involved in the protest. You know, Bill Maher on one of his shows recently said something about, oh, well, no King's Day, I just saw a bunch of white people. Well, number one, he's a damn liar. Okay. I don't know what particular part of the country he was looking at, but yeah, you have plenty of black and brown people out there uh, demonstrating on No King's Day. Okay. See, that's why I really don't pay. I stopped paying attention to Bill Maher about a year, 2 years ago, when he decided that he was going to stab aggressors in the back. Okay. I don't know what game he's playing in, and quite frankly, I really don't give a damn. I just have a hard time taking this guy seriously. Um, but those black people, who are not involved. I don't know, you're as far as I'm concerned, you're not acting like you are aware of what's happening to this country. And if you think that this whole thing about ICE and beating people in the street is going to just stop with Latinos, you're out of your mind. Okay? That is one of the key things about dictatorship, about tyranny, because eventually they come after everybody. So, listen, I'm going to wrap up shop for a little while. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, pay attention to what's going on, stay aware, stay vocal, stay active, take care of each other. Peace.